I've had the incredible pleasure of being able to travel around and visit a whole lot of theme parks, but there are several attractions and rides and coasters that I never got to experience that I really wish I had. Here's 12 that are at the top of my list that I wish I had gotten to experience. I have been so blessed to be able to have opportunity to travel around. I've actually been on almost 300 different roller coasters and somewhere close to 100 different theme and amusement parks of various types. It's really been an incredible opportunity to see so much and experience so much. But there are certain things that along the way I really wish I'd had the opportunity to check out and experience. There are some great coasters. There's a couple with reputations that I wish I'd had the chance. And a lot of other different attractions at some classic parks I haven't been able to experience. Now, for this list to keep it relatively manageable, I haven't gone with anything that was older than, say, 1980 or so, just because I want to keep the list short. Otherwise, I could add in classic coasters like the Crystal Beach Cyclone and some various things like that. These are all rides and attractions that have been available in my lifetime that I wish I'd had the chance to experience and haven't been able to. The first one on my list is Batman and Robin the Chiller. These were a couple of launched coasters built by Premier Rides over at Six Flags Great Adventure. They operated from 1998 to 2007. From what I heard, there were a lot of mixed reviews. When they first opened, these things actually had over-the-shoulder restraints. And they had a couple of inversions, including a zero-G roll, that tended to do a lot of headbanging. But in 2001 and 2002, they finally removed those head restraints, and from what I heard, these coasters were incredible. Unfortunately, they were also problem-plagued. They didn't last that long. It's a ride that kind of lives on in lore a little bit, but I never got to experience. In many ways, it is kind of my Drachenfire. And no, I never got to experience Drachenfire either, but that one kind of gets an honorable mention. Number 2 on my list is the Ozark Wildcat at Celebration City. This is a coaster that actually kind of taunted me for years. The very first time I came to Missouri was in 2004. Came by, visit my mother as we were moving from California to Florida, and we spent a day at Silver Dollar City and had a blast. Our plan was to go to Celebration City the next day, except it rained. And it rained. And it rained the day after that, and the day after that. And you just kind of went, well, we've been in parks in the rain, but it was just too much. So we said, well, my mother lives here, we'll be back, we'll catch this again. We moved back to Missouri in 2011. And unfortunately, at that point, it was too late. The Ozark Wildcat in Celebration City had closed in 2008, and I no longer had the chance to get there. But what was really hard was anytime I would go past Branson, it was sitting right there just taunting me. You wish you could have ridden, and now you can't. So sad, because it looked like such a very neat coaster. They finally tore it down a couple years ago. I was sad to see it go, but at the same time, at least it wasn't mocking me anymore. But yeah, that was a coaster I really wish I'd gotten a chance. I never even got a chance to see Celebration City either. On my bucket list of things that I wish I'd done. Number 3 is kind of a classic Disney ride, and that's the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea at Magic Kingdom. Now, I grew up in California, so I did make it to Disneyland several times. I got to ride the submarine voyage there. Haven't been on the Nemo version. I'll get that in October this year. But I loved the subs. They were just really fun. Magic Kingdom, they had the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which they had the Nemo-style subs, and it was really kind of cool. It actually sat right where Be Our Guest and Gaston's Tavern sit now. Would have been really fun, but by the time I got to Magic Kingdom, it had been replaced with Ariel's Play Place. I don't know, just not a fair exchange in my book. Everything I've heard, the ride was very, very similar to the one at Disneyland overall, but it still would have been really cool to experience it. I loved the subs. Numbers 4 and 5. The Villain and Big Dipper at Geauga Lake. Okay, here's a couple more coasters that taunt me in my memories, because I actually had the opportunity to ride these and it didn't happen. I actually got to go out to Geauga Lake twice, in 2001 and 2002, back when it was Six Flags Worlds of Adventure. We just missed getting into the park in 2001 because we'd been held up on the road. 2002, I only had a half day and I was trying to get as much as I possibly could, and Unfortunately, these two were the ones that went by the wayside, and now it's too late to ride them. Which is really sad because Big Dipper is an old, classic coaster. It's exactly the kind of coaster I absolutely love. I love the old out and backs. It's a John Miller. Miller made some fantastic coasters, and I just so regret missing those. Unfortunately, I had to catch a plane, and it meant that I just didn't make it to them before we took off, and never got back before they closed. So, yeah, there's two more I really wish I'd had the chance to ride. Number 5 is actually one from where I'm living now at Silver Dollar City, and that's Rube Duggans' Diving Bell. Okay, no, this isn't a coaster, but it, from everything I've heard, was a really cool attraction. They had this idea to create kind of this submarine on land and use modern effects to make people think they were going underwater when they weren't. Silver Dollar City and the Herschends actually proposed to Disney to help them build this thing, and Disney said no. After all, it was going to cost too much money, and hey, they'd be putting something in competition's area, even though it's not even anywhere close. Disney actually told the Herschends they couldn't build this thing for less than $6 million. $1.2 million later, they had a hit ride. Rube Duggans' Diving Bell was a place where you'd walk into this room that looked like a submarine. You'd have a guy who would kind of put on a show for about 20 minutes, and you had screens that actually gave you the impression you were going underwater. This thing was so realistic there were some people that freaked out because they thought they were going to drown. They're sitting on land the whole time. They never even moved. But, neat ride from everything I've heard. I've got friends who worked on the ride, and I never got to experience it. It closed in 1984 before I ever got to Silver Dollar City, and they replaced it with the Lost River, the Rapids ride, and that's actually gone now too. They've got that whole area under construction with a new Rapids ride, and who knows what else coming. But there's a lot of people who still miss Rube Duggans' Diving Bell, and a lot of people who would like to see it return in some form. Effects way before their time, but they were so neat from everything I've heard. Number 6, Hypersonic LC at Paramount's King's Dominion. This is a coaster that a lot of people seem to have a love-hate affair. It was one of the first air-launched coasters ever out there. It was one of the first ones that had the design where you went up the hill and over the top, and it was supposedly the most intense launch that a lot of people ever had. It actually had rubber tires, and it didn't have too much beyond just the hill and the launch. It was pretty much a one-trick pony, but from what I've heard, what a trick it was. I loved launch rides. Accelerator's a great one. I mentioned Batman and Robin the Chiller. I love Top Thrill Dragster. I love shuttles like Montezuma's Revenge, the old Schwarzkopf shuttle loops. This would have been such a neat kind of callback, even though it wasn't a shuttle. That launch had to have been really neat. But unfortunately, there were engineering issues and other problems, and it didn't last that long. It only lasted 6 years, which isn't a long lifetime for a coaster. I can dream. Number 7, Buzzsaw Falls. Yeah, this is another one from Silver Dollar City, and this was another coaster that taunted me. The first time I visited Silver Dollar City was 2004, and it had actually closed just the year before. And we were there, we're actually able to look at the ride and not go on it. That was just mean. Buzzsaw Falls was one of the first water coasters. It actually had flume portions where you float like a log ride, and then it had roller coaster portions with track. In fact, the replacement for it, Powder Keg, actually uses some of the track from the ride. You can actually see part of the old flume, in fact, when you go into Powder Keg Station. The old flume trough actually goes right under the station and past you. So you can look at it and go, wow, that would have been Buzzsaw Falls. They even went so far as to take one of the old boat cars, and it's sitting on top of the station upside down just to further taunt you. Like, wow, this would have been cool to see one of the very first combo water ride roller coasters, but unfortunately, we missed it by that much. That seems to be a recurring theme with a lot of these, is that I came that close and just didn't quite get it. These next 4 on my list are all pretty much at one park and encompass really kind of what this park used to be and what it should be and what it's not now. Number 4, Horizons. This was at Walt Disney World's Epcot Park, and it was one of the rides that opened up shortly after it opened. It operated from 1983 to 2003. It was actually replaced by Mission Space, which my kids love Mission Space, and I'm okay with it, I guess. If you can kind of think of taking the classic Carousel of Progress, which takes you all through these eras, the way life has changed over decades, and you make it into a dark ride and go into the future, and it's kind of like Carousel's sequel. It used an Omnimover system, and one of the neat things was you could actually choose from 3 different endings. And depending upon what you chose, it would change how the ride ended. It also had these huge, they called them Omnimax screens. One of the very first things to use gigantic screens, way ahead of its time. A lot of people loved Horizons. Would have been nice to ride. The next one on the list was actually right next door to Horizons, and that's the Wonders of Life. Wonders of Life Pavilion included Body Wars, which was kind of like Star Tours inside your body. It also had the Cranium Command Show, which had animatronics that talked about what went on inside your brain. I'll bet it really would have been weird if it saw inside mine. The hard thing with the Wonders of Life, for me, was the fact that the pavilion is still there, and you can actually go inside of it at times. They open it up during festivals and use it for various activities, and you can actually still see the stage for Cranium Command and the entrance for Body Wars, and it's sitting there, and it's just like, wow, it just taunt me with what could have been and can't be now. Oh, the cruel humanity of it. On the other side of where Horizons was World of Motion. This got replaced by Test Track, and I have to admit, I love Test Track. I like the version before the one that's there now a little bit more, but World of Motion, from what I've heard, was a really cool ride. It was a dark ride Omnimover system, get a pattern there, that took you all the way through the progress from the invention of the wheel all the way up to futuristic vehicles, how we get to places. And again, it was supposed to be a really neat ride. The videos I've seen of it aren't real good, but it looked like it was a fascinating, fun ride. It really kind of helped communicate what Epcot was about and really emphasized what Future World was. You had all these things and they all tied together and helped build Future World. And in fact, the last one actually contributed to that as well, although it was on the other side of the Plaza Pavilion, and that was the original Journey into Imagination with Dreamfinder and Figment. Now, I have to admit, the very first time we got to go to Epcot was in 2006. And the first time we rode Journey into Imagination with Figment, we got off and we thought, wow, what were they tripping on when they made this ride? Because it was definitely different. But it was fascinating, and you came off and going, okay, that was weird. I want to go do that again because I don't quite get it. And yet to know that it is a shadow of what the original version was with Dreamfinder is just frustrating. It's like, how cool would the original have been? I mean, I've fallen so much in love with Figment. He's probably my favorite Disney character now, and you'll find him in various things on my shelves here and on my other set. Figment is such a cool character, and I wish I could have seen that original ride. It would have been so cool to really get a feel for what the whole thing was about originally. Instead, we get not a bad shadow, at least it wasn't the interim one, but when you see Eric Idle kind of in there and Robin Williams and great people, but I'm like, I don't know if they necessarily fit this. Bring Dreamfinder back. Bring the whole thing back. It needs an update anyways. You know, as I think about it, just bring old Epcot back, because I kind of missed old Epcot entirely. And Future World at Epcot right now, let's be honest, it sucks. Half of it's empty buildings and shadows of what it used to be. Oh, to have seen old Epcot. So that's my list of 12 rides, coasters, and attractions that I wish I had experienced and didn't for various reasons, and the numbers of them I came so close to is so sad. What's on your list? I'd love to know what you've missed and wish you had ridden. Do you agree with what's on mine? Do you think a couple of them on mine are just a waste of time? I'd love to hear your feedback. Please don't hesitate to leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to share and like this video too. Hey, if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button and post it around. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't as well. I also want to give a huge shout out to my patrons for their financial support. Honestly, I can't do most of what I do without them. So thank you so much to my patrons. If you want to know more about Patreon and supporting me, or my fan pages, or how to get a hold of me, or chat rooms, there's the Reddit, there's the Discord, there's the Facebook fan page, there's the gear I use, and so much more down in the description below. So be sure to check all of that out. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless. We moved back here in 2006. And unfortunate, where you would walk into it actually had rubber tires instead of the typical tires that are on. Number 7. Here's another one from Silver Dollars. I'm saying these all wrong. And it had.